folks, Randy had to go for a little while, so I'm going to take over unless he comes back in. The next gentleman is up. He's been with us for quite a while. He's also a dual member with Texas Research. We don't hold the fact that he takes them against him, even though he gets good about that. He first heard of Bigfoot while as a young child living in southeast Washington from his grandfather. He fell in love with the outdoors in the nearby Blue Mountains. Decades later, after growing up in Texas, he had his interest rekindled after seeing programs like Bigfoot Field. 2004, about Sasquatch in Oklahoma, and that made a major change as he discovered so much of it on the internet about Bigfoot reports in the Oklahoma and Arkansas, Texas region. Finding Green Country Bigfoot Research Center forums online, he eventually met up with us and joined us in 2009 in Hanover. He is the Texas State Director now and the newest member of Texas Cryptozoological Research, and primarily focused on audio research and behavior of the creature, and digging for old and new reports close to the home and the local lake. Yeah, Chambers Creek monster. One thing about Larry is, he's been a real good friend. Back in Hanover 2009, I believe it was, the first time we got to meet Dizzy in person. And we got a picture of them together, so they've known each other for a long time. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Larry. Before I do, there is one thing. Back there in the back by the cast, we do have replica casts for sale. So if you want to take home a Bigfoot cast, go back there and see Big Jim or whoever's back there in his place right at the moment, and you can take home a cast of the Bigfoot print. So I'm going to turn it over to Larry.
Thank you, Darren. I'll try with this. Well, like I said, my name is Larry Parks. I live just south of Dallas in a town called Ennis, about 40 miles down I-45 towards Houston. When I got into this research, about 8 or 9 years ago, I found out about reports nearby me, and it was a 1964 sighting. It was called the Chambers Creek Monster. Of course, keep in mind that this was a creature sighting before Patterson Gimlin film came out. This was before people knew about Bigfoot everywhere. We had the California tracks found in like 58, I guess. But, our part of the country, just local legend, whatever monster it was. So, anyway, the Trinity River watershed is basically my home research area. Trinity River out of Dallas, but towards the southeast from there, which goes on in East Texas. I haven't done much on the lower Trinity, but it's basically in the middle part around Corsicana. Thereabouts, I consider my base area. I work with Texas a lot down there. Chambers Creek flows into Trinity, so it's all really one water system.
Or 2 for 25.
So you'll see Ennis at the top, and then you see Elmer and Rice. I live real close to the I-45 mark between Elmer and Rice. You got Lake Bardwell, and then M-House to the south, it's a very small town. Just off the map is Corsicana to the south, and Avalon's off to the west, another very small town. You see a little green in the forest down here at 287 I-45. That's Chambers Creek, just a narrow bamboo wood. It runs through Ellis and Navarro counties. It's a really good-sized creek, actually big enough to have the water flow meters and the core users for the measure the river flows and everything. So if you follow that to the left, you'll see those squiggly lines between Bardwell and Avalon is a different tributary, and down below Avalon is Chambers, below that area. Okay. But some of these other creeks are Cummins Creek, coming out of Ennis, which is coming up, right there, that's Cummins Creek, and Black Mustang and Big Onion Creek. These are the next ones. So as I was saying, what is the Chambers Creek Monster? This was a creature you looked at. Back in 1964, a man named Kenneth, I just leave the last name out for privacy reasons, and a friend of his were down there fishing, camping off the creek, and just like what locals do back then. they were down there and encountered a large hulking-hairy creature, possibly 8 to 10 feet tall, that came out of the brush, waving its arms and just scaring the daylights out of these folks. And this was a one-lane road going in and out through low water crossing. And basically they had ran to the vehicle and had to go in reverse. So they didn't have room or time to turn around. It just went backwards all the way to Ennis, coming from the creek. And it's a pretty long way. So that, needless to say, that this was the report that coined the term of the creature. And for a long time, I thought that was really the only report I had to a place in the house. It was a good, strong story, but that's all there was. But this past year, I started digging a little deeper. This was, what it was the son of Kenneth, the original witness. His son was the one that turned in the report on the previous slide in 1999 with the BFRO. And that's when it was published and more people found out about it. On one of the blogs, that son he sort of got him into the topic of kind of following local creature stories and whatnot. He's kept up with it, gathered some stories locally, and he had just recounted his father's tale in 2012 on a Mundo blog post in response. This is where this came from. So he just kind of went over the story again, and he was commenting, how they went backwards, so M House is connected to Ennis on this one road where this little water crossing is. There'll be some more with that. This was about a year ago. I was just driving in the wintertime, just showing how it's still just one lane of cement. It's a new, semi-newer bridge that widens up, but it's just one lane in and out. So it's still a really old deal, and that other time you saw was just showing that kind of spooky freak, that always was on the coyote and things going through there. Now, so what does this report do with me? Basically, I live very close to that creek. I'm a Bigfoot researcher, and my comment, just because the way times have been, gas prices are just too darn high to go driving up here every weekend. As much as I like coming up here, it's gotten harder and harder to do the longer distance research to get to these hot spots. So I decided to just refocus on what's close to me. Now, this picture here I found that showed the drainage of the watershed in blue is the Chambers Creek watershed. Includes, goes past the town of Waxahachie all the way to Alvarado. It's really a rather large area. That lake to the southeast is Richland Chambers Reservoir, and then the red watershed is Richland Creek, because Chambers and Richland are the two main creeks that feed that reservoir. Now the squiggly line in the beige area outside of the watershed is the Trinity River, which is the county river. And behind that lake is the dam spillway that runs into the river. So there's the connection with Trinity. I believe that lake is probably, I don't know, maybe in the 70s. It wasn't maybe more recent than that. And then as I've got to meet more people and some local people over the last couple of years, I found out that there have been more incidences that weren't online. And this is a close-up of the low water crossing. North and south is the low water crossing road. It's really pretty thin band of wood, that part of the creek. But if you see off to the east, there's a pretty good band of woods through there, and the rest is farmland. And then there's some pretty big pockets of woods along several tributaries that are all coming together.
Don't worry about that.
After talking to a friend of mine, I found out
where you at?
I talked to one of his friends, and came across another report
Get
that
up
I just
there.
picked this up about a month and a half ago.
Have them bring my room and
And
close
he was
this
telling
door.
me about what had happened. He said it was in
The
that
bed at the Regency was so hard, I don't think I slept. I was,
road. Turned out to be the same.
I can speak my nails right now.
Years the
I
other
probably
end.
sleep better sitting up.
They were fishing as well.
I see it.
Yeah.
And they heard some sounds. They've been cooking fish, and they heard something that sounded like it was on 2 feet, really large, coming through the brush towards them. They ended up smelling a really strong smell, and they ended up getting some kind of growling vocalization. And I don't believe they saw it at that particular time, but they were very frightened by whatever it was. They had shot at it out of here and it hadn't gone away. And they of course fled, same old story, you know, people ran away to get out of there. But the fact that it turned out to be in the same location by different people and unrelated event at the same time, it really solidified the other report. And it really meant a lot to me because now I'm not just getting this random report, it ties into the other one. And now on the next slide. Then there was this other incident, and those two reports I kind of got at the same time. These drawings are from Jim Whitehead, that's back there with the castings. He had sketched these for some Oklahoma witnesses. There's a lot of visual reports with a Bigfoot in Oklahoma and Texas and other areas that they drop down on all fours. A lot of times, kind of thinking that they may do that so they can be passed off as bears crossing the road. There's been truck drivers on I-35 in Oklahoma near the Arbuckle Range, by Chickasaw Recreation Area where Randy had his sighting, where truck drivers have seen something that looked like a bear across the interstate, and then when it got to the shoulder, it stood up on two legs and started walking around through it. Just some strange things like that. But this was several different sketches from different sightings. I showed these drawings to the witness that saw something. He described it as a bear, but it wasn't a bear. And it was very large and it came out. And this was on a tributary of Thames Creek, Cummins Creek, there was a group of young kids, they were walking distance, just running the creek in the woods. This is literally on the south side where the residential neighborhood stops. It's a wooded creek. It's got water year round, even in the drought. I can go through this, about these sections of this creek this year during 3 months, 4 months of no rain, and still see all these shaded areas with clear water in the creek. And this is Cummins Creek. It runs down and hits Chambers Creek closer to I-45. It has a lot of woods all the way down. And basically they were out and about. The first witness, because this was like a 3 or 4 person witness account, I've already talked to 2 of them. I talked to the third one. He looked back and saw something that was running at him in a weird way, down on all fours, but it was somewhere around 4 or 5 feet high on all fours. And it was coming at him, had a really long hair, he just said it was ugly looking. And needless to say, it was coming right at him. And they hightailed it back, got away. I don't know exactly how it stopped or whatnot, but now I talked to another witness. He actually said he heard something or saw something standing up around 8 or 9 feet tall. And then he saw it drop down to all fours and charge. So the first witness I talked to it was already on all fours when it was coming out. And then the second witness described seeing it, hearing a vocalization, it was like a huff or some kind of like a gorilla, like a blood charge type of situation, and it dropped down and came at him and ran him off. So that's sort of typical primate behavior for a male protecting his area, trying to run off. And, very possibly, maybe there was young, the female, maybe young, may have been nearby, but we're not seeing it. The behavior was in such a way that it was defending his territory. In that area, this was around 69, and it could have been 71. It was a little sketchy on the year. But at that time, and for decades, the city just had an open dump by that creek. The location where this occurred at was where that dump was. And that creek ran right behind it, so it was more than likely could have been years that people were coming up the creek at night, poking around in the trash, which is matched up with other reports, dumpster dive in the landfills and such. So, but they quoted saying it was like a bear, it wasn't a bear, and I started showing pictures. And they never even considered putting it, they just didn't know what it was. So this is all come about for us 2 months or so. Go ahead there. And then this was another sketch from Oklahoma that I was just going to show you, what it do with the down in vegetation. This is like river reed material. We have that down in Texas, some of the river bottoms. Now the M-House Coat Man. This, as far as I'm concerned, is just another name for Chambers Creek Monster. Now this term I picked up from the son of the original witness who picked up a few reports. M-House was the city to the south. still, you know, old historical reports give a good value because if there was reports in the past and the habitat's still there, there's no reason why they shouldn't fuck around and maybe do a little research today. Just, they say, I mean, if it's good in the past, you know, it'll come back. There might be periods of a few years where there's nothing, but you got a good chance that the creatures will return. I got a few reports here. One I picked up from a lady from work that she told me about some legend. I mentioned the in-house goat man, if you've heard of it. And she said something about a story. This is kind of a typical, you know, little lovers couple on the bridge kind of thing. But one of the bridges over that creek, you know, a couple parked there doing, you know, fishing or whatever they're doing. And a creature like appeared by the vehicle, like, you know, maybe got convincing and hit the door, try to get the door handle or whatever. Just one of those kind of little reports. But it appeared the same old thing. They're parked by the wooded creek. So many stories you get like that where something's kind of running off. Another one now, this one was interesting. They called it the goat man, but they described the creature scooping the deer corn out of the feeder buckets and eating it. Well, prior to even getting this report, I had already had numerous other incidences of hearing about the deer feeder always getting emptied out, the food getting stolen out of the feeder, and not knowing what was doing it. And he'd fill it up and come back and be empty. This was in East Texas, another area that's current that I was getting these stories. And then I heard this report, and I was like, oh, so they've been doing this type of behavior for decades in the South deer feeders. Anyway, we had that one. And if you hadn't heard before, that is another food source that they wanted to use. I just fully believe that wherever you got deer feeders, they're going in there and just eating that grain. You know, just like when they rob it in a farm, they don't care. I mean, it's just too easy. And then this farm, the Market 1126 Road, there was one, you know, near where you hit my car, just kind of a typical road crossing. That's the road that goes from Rice on I-45 to M House. So you got the report from Ennis to M House, and then from Rice to M House, you know, and all this, just all in that immediate area. It's all 10 miles or so from my house. There was a little tidbit there. It was given to me. Apparently, this singer, this is kind of the early '60s music scene. You know, he also sung along with this Trini Lopez guy. He's still around. But, yeah, Lemon Tree. So apparently, he had family in Ennis. I think Trini was from Dallas, but he had family, maybe his parents or somebody that lived in a little house right off Chambers Creek. Back during this time that these sightings of '64 were happening, and it was just a comment that they were back there and had bought guns and they boarded up their windows and, you know, were reacting to it. So there's kind of a little interesting tidbit there. You go on with that. And this was like the 50s and 60s, so you're talking about reports prior to 64 that the goat man or whatever is down there messing with stuff. Now then, a couple years ago, I ran into a researcher that lived nearby that was a witness of a Bigfoot sighting around 2006. And of course, it's kind of area to the west. And that kind of, a lot of times people have their sighting and it kind of makes them into researchers, right? Because their lives change. So this person started doing research around the area and gave me a couple of reports from Chambers Creek that they had picked up. So these are secondhand. So I have to just kind of say that as a disclaimer. I didn't interview the actual witness. This is a creek crossing further upstream from the first one. And there's actually really good patches of wood. These are 2013 satellite images. There's still pretty substantial wood areas along here. Go ahead, next slide. This was from 2007. I'm not going to read all of that, but basically a group of folks went down there to go fishing. There's some little dirt roads you can get down there, and there's a bend in the creek. It's kind of a people's spot. And people go down there to fish, or catfish, whatever. And they were down there, and a couple of guys, maybe they cleared around his head or something, but something happened.